Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of the Pirate Rugby Pod. We are still trying to reach our next goal of 250 YouTube subscribers, so please hit subscribe if you haven't already and help us get there. If you leave us a comment, we always respond, so let us know what you think. We also have our new Friday breakfast mini show for audio listeners only, where we cover the midweek news and deliver your TV guide for the weekend ahead. At 15 minutes, it is the perfect for your morning commute, so why not give it a go? You?
And don't forget, you can listen to the full version of this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple or Spotify. If you drop us a review, it really helps us out. We also have our free Substack, which you can go to every week, and you get any content that we drop emailed directly to your inbox. It's completely for free. All you need to do is drop your email address in, and you're ready to go. There's also links to that and our Twitter page in the description boxes below, both on audio and on YouTube. And we share clips, news, and stats from games all over the world. So if you like the sound of that, please give us a go. Anyway, into the show this week, Enda, mate. So what is your moment of the week?
I cheated this week and picked two moments. The first one was quite brief. I was out grabbing a coffee during my lunch hour at work, and my workplace happens to be quite near to the RDS where Leinster play their home games and the Aviva Stadium. And while I was in my coffee shop, I spotted a Hollywood Bets jacket from behind. So I knew that obviously Leinster were at home to the Sharks on the Saturday. So this is a Friday, obviously. So spotted basically the entire coaching staff sitting outside my local cafe. Shout out to the Magpie. And yeah, I just went up to them and wished them a good luck. I got a very kind of delayed cheers, but it was still pretty cool to see them all. Unfortunately, didn't get to see any of the players, but I guess my good luck didn't work out for them, did it? Sorry. And then look, the biggest moment of the week, actually, it only happened. I only saw the clips today after work, was just seeing Sia Khaleesi walking into the airport. And seeing those massive crowds in South Africa cheering them on. It just reminds you of how much it means to South Africa that they won it. And for me, that probably topped it off for me. You can say what you like about, well, I know we'll get into about their style of play and everything, but I can't help but love the Springboks and everything they stand for, where their players come from, what they're playing for. Just brilliant. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, so my moment is a self-deprecating moment of the week. So Sports Social is part of this podcast network that we are a member of. They messaged me, they messaged us on Twitter in the DMs and said, great stuff with what's going on so far, back and forth about a couple of bits of content, etc. And I said, it's the final this week. Do you want me to do you a video for predictions? And the guy wrote back and said, only if your predictions are going to be better than they were for the quarterfinals. So
brutal.
We've got the Twitter admin of the podcasting network people completely mugging me off for my rugby take. I was like, bloody hell, man! I'm just trying to create a bit of content over here. There's no need for that. And anyway, I gave him my final prediction, and I was bloody wrong as well. So he had the last laugh, bastard. Anyway,
we were both wrong on that one.
Yeah, but thanks to the good people at Sports Social for supporting us and sharing the clips.
And moving on to I suppose maybe the biggest game of the weekend. I think it's fair to say the World Cup final. What a cracking game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know I think we were both wrong in terms of our predictions, but it was such a tight one, and final score of 12-11, I think pretty much sums it up for me. What are your thoughts, Huw? Like, I think it was a good game. Thoughts in the final, the spectacle as a whole?
Yeah, I thought it was. It wasn't quite. A lot of people said it about how intense and how high skilled and things. I didn't think it quite, for me, hit the heights of the quarterfinals. Those two quarterfinals that we saw, that for me are the two best matches I've ever watched. But it was there in terms of intensity. It was there in terms of, you could sense the nervousness from the players. I was watching as a true neutral because I love the Springboks. I love the Springboks players and all the emotion behind them. But I had also predicted the All Blacks to win, so I did have a bit of skin in the game. But it kind of balanced out. So I wasn't like I wasn't tense watching it. I was watching it as a pure, like, just enjoying it as a spectacle. Whereas the quarterfinals, I was a bit more tense. But yeah, it was such a, obviously, you know, I was about to say it's a high stakes game. It's a World Cup final. Of course, it was a high stakes game, but it was the way that the two teams cancelled each other out, and the way that they tried to cut down on their errors so much. And it was like a proper final. You know, the finals are very rarely like amazing games. Finals are normally edgy and cagey and things, and it was all of those things. And it was so close. I don't think if one of those two last kicks from the All Blacks had gone over, I don't think anyone's saying that it was an unfair result. But then everyone's so happy for the Springboks. Well, I say everyone's so happy. So the reaction to it is this kind of really tired narrative that has come out from a few places. It started in New Zealand. It's now seeped a bit into the Irish mainstream as media as well. So I'll get your thoughts on it, mate. Is there a wrong way to win a World Cup?
I think you described it quite well. Like it's tiring that this complaint about how they play. And it's such a lazy way of viewing how the Springboks play. Like, how would anybody define it? Like the amount of intricacies, the amount of thought process behind everything they do. Like, there's so much more there than thus. Like, you did a brilliant tweet recently about like the size of the bomb squad and how they're allegedly all these enormous, you know, men, which they're not. And like, once you actually know a bit about rugby and you look into these things, you realize there's so much more than just brute physicality and kicking the ball. Kicking the leather off the ball. Like, there's so much more to it than that. And I think it's just lazy journalism. I think it's just lazy analysis. Like I think any neutral, and I know you and I and all the rugby noses out there, like, we all love watching the Springboks play. Especially when you read into their backgrounds, when you watch the documentaries on what they're playing for, where they come from. Like, it's just, for me, and they're such a good group of guys. I just absolutely love watching them. But yeah, going back to your point, like it there is this debate there, and it's not going anywhere. Like, it's, you know, there a lot was said about Ireland under Joe Schmidt, that we were quite boring and everything. But there is a limited amount of space on the rugby pitch, and there are different ways to play the game. And if we were all playing if all teams were playing the exact same way, it'd be incredibly boring, I think, to watch. We're never going to have this. Like, if you don't want to see a set piece, and if you don't want to see tactical kicking, to the extent that you do in union, just go watch league. Like, that means rugby isn't for you. If you don't want to watch a scrum, if you don't want to learn about the scrum, if you're too lazy to understand why a decision maybe didn't go your team's way, just watch rugby league. Like, I don't know what you're watching union for. We're not going to change it. We're not going to get rid of the scrum. It's there to stay. And I think it's just the Springboks playing to their strengths. It's doing what they do best. And like, they've, like, to say that they've, like, it's not, I don't know, like, it's not a boring game plan to me. That they play like, they have some of the most exciting backs in the world, and they actually get to touch the ball. Like, we all know that England play like, for me, it's that argument is definitely more valid to a team like England, to have a crazily high playing pool of players, yet they play the most dull brand of rugby. But they are at the very early stages of their development. But like, their backs don't touch their ball. Like, the ball, sorry, their back, like, they barely throw any passes. When you look at the stats for the Springboks, you know that their wingers always get involved. They do throw passes. It's just, yeah, I think it's just I'm getting so tired of it. And I used to, before I maybe started analyzing rugby a bit more and getting as into it as I did, I wasn't a massive fan of their game plan. But now that I know more about the game and understand it, and how kicking can make a game exciting, I love the way they play, and I think we should embrace it. And yeah, it's just it's so lazy. Like, just like you put out a brilliant tweet today talking about the amount of kicks. Like, when New Zealand kick more, like, the ball more than any other team in the world, like, we all noticed, yet everyone say, oh, they played the best brand. It's nonsense. I might leave it there, yeah, mate. But what do you think about it? Like, it's lazy, isn't it? Like,
It is lazy. It's not Winslow. I mean, it's so stupid. Like, how can you say a team that's got Cheslin Colby and Curtly Aronson on the wings is a boring team? Like, listen to yourself. Like, have you seen Damien Villens to play? Did you see that moment in the quarterfinal where he called calls for the mark and then opts for a scrum off it. I didn't spot the boring moment in that. And like the scrums as well, the scrums in this game were a sight to behold in this final. The battle of it and seeing them. Harry Jones, I want to say he's Australian. He works for the Raw, but I always see him in the Springboks top. So I don't know where his allegiances quite lie. I do believe he is Australian. He was at the game and he was down pitch side and he filmed one of the scrums pitch side, and just the battle, the intensity of that battle. I think Wilcard, to be fair, of all people, went on the good, the bad Australian version with Drew Mitchell and Matt Gitto and that, and saying, how can you find the best part of 1 ton's worth of men in either side smashing into each other as hard as they can? Where's the boring part on that? And yeah, I think you know what? Whenever you hear this narrative about winning in the wrong way, it always comes from the people who lost. Like look at if you're a Kiwi fan and you're saying, oh, the Springboks won in the wrong way, well, you lost in the right way then. So why are you annoyed? Because you've got what you wanted, haven't you? You wanted your team to play the right way regardless of the result, and that's what's happened. It's like the whole, I pick on them too much, it's the whole Scotland thing. They lose playing the right way. Cool. I'll take my winners' medals, thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for me, like a final was always going to be tight, like, but I think it was still a brilliant atmosphere. The adversity was insane, like, and Bongi going off after a couple of minutes with a nasty hit by Frizzell and that clear out. And that's when I actually thought, I was like, this is where Radzi's going to be tested here. Was this the wrong call? Because I definitely thought the 7-1 was the wrong call against Ireland. But he proved us all wrong again. And they pulled it off. And I'll say it again. We need to start a penny jar for this. Red cards don't ruin games. And yet I definitely felt for Kane. It was a red card all day. But I definitely felt for the guy, especially in that interview after, especially with that narrative around him. I think he's a fantastic player, but there's a massive cohort of rugby fans who think he shouldn't be captain, let alone even starting for the All Blacks. So it's I'd say I hope he doesn't get any nasty stuff online, which I'm sure he will, unfortunately, if you look at the stuff but that Barnes got, which is just horrific. But look, we'll focus on the positives in this pod, won't we? Any other major talking points from the game from yourself or from the World Cup as a whole? Are South Africa the best team ever? This crop of players?
That's the debate at the moment, isn't it? Is this generation of the Springboks the second team to go back to back, but they had a Lions Tour victory in the middle of it? Does that make them the greatest? And for me, I love the Springboks, and I love this set of players particularly, and like Sia Khaleesi, like how do you not love that man? But for me, the 2015 All Blacks, the gap between that team and the rest is a kind of gap that I'm not sure we'll ever see again in the sport. I mean, just listen to this team sheet. I've got it up in front of me for the 2015 final for the All Blacks. Just listen to this team. So you got Joe Meady, Dane Coles, Owen Franks. You could maybe say that there's an argument that the current Springboks front row get a couple in there. I certainly think Kitsoff and Oxenshea have been phenomenal for the last 12 months, both of them. Kitsoff's URC stats are unbelievable. But if you're talking Brodie Retallick, Sam Whitelock, Jerome Kano, Richie McCaw, Kieran Reid, like these names trip off the tongue. These are like all-time greats. And then you've got Aaron Smith, Dan Carter. As much as we all love Faf de Klerk and Andre Pollard, are they Aaron Smith and Dan Carter? Like, and then behind that, Ma Nonu, like Damien de Allende has been phenomenal this World Cup. Is he Ma Nonu? That's a debate to be had. Ben Smith at fullback. You had prime Julian Severe on the wing. For me, the 2015 All Blacks still hold the crown, just because I read that list of individual players and it is like each one of them is a contender for all-time greatest in their position. And I'm not sure You can say that about the Boks, because I'm not sure you can say Jesse Creel, another one, absolutely phenomenal. Is he the greatest 13 in his position? And like, this All Blacks team had like Sonny Bill Williams and Bonin Barrett on the bench. Like that's how good that team is. What about you, mate? Which team do you put top?
I don't know. Like, I don't particularly enjoy these comparisons. I think it's so. I know a lot of people, especially on Twitter, have gotten really into it. They were both absolutely phenomenal teams. Thankfully, the Springboks still are. Now we know a lot of them are getting quite old, but they still have a massive crop of young players coming through there. So I don't think we're going to see a massive change in terms of performance going forward from them. But yeah, I think, yeah, I don't want to pick a side. I think, yeah, that All Black side were absolutely phenomenal. Like, you naming those players, like, was there a better team? I don't know. But then, yeah, to go back to back for the Springboks under all that adversity, the playing against the teams they did, like losing to Ireland, but of course beating Scotland early on and getting through the home nation, and scoring loads of tries and producing probably one of the best games we've seen in I don't know how long. And to do it that way, and then obviously beat the All Blacks in the final, I think it's just so impressive. Especially after winning it last time, and then with COVID and everything that they had to go through. Yeah, I can't pick a side, but just both two phenomenal sides. I'll put it that way.
What a cop out. You've let me down so much.
I know. I just want to talk about the URC, to be honest. That's what I want to get on.
Okay, let's get to the URC then. I'm not surprised that you want to talk about it. Right, so let's talk about... Let's start with the Irish. We started with the Welsh last week. Let's start with the Irish this week. How do we think that the Irish provinces got on? And the match that I caught most of was Munster against Benetton over in Treviso, which ended in a 13-all draw.
Yeah, and I think Munster were lucky to get that. I think they'd be absolutely delighted with that result. It's no surprise for any URC fans that Benetton almost won that game. Again, we said it last week, I'll say it again this week. It's brilliant for the league that Benetton are so competitive. It was great to see Malachi Fakatoa playing against his old side. Like, some of the players that Benetton have are just incredible. But I think it's, for Munster, it's probably a game they'll want to forget. Unfortunately, it looks like Carberry's picked up a bit of a wrist injury. Hopefully that's not too serious. I don't think they're sure yet. So it could be nothing. It might only be a few weeks. Could be a week. So hopefully he comes through, because he's been in good form. And we're all, I think, shouting for him, especially after the end he had to last season. Leinster, they kind of got back to the Leinster, the business as usual. That would have been a 3-game losing streak for Leinster in the URC. So I don't think that was ever going to happen. This game last year against the Sharks was a correct one. I don't think this one lived quite up to it. And obviously they were both missing a lot of players.
It wasn't as comfortable as maybe the scoreline suggests, though, from what I watched of it. I thought the Sharks gave them a real test.
Yeah, and the Sharks have some absolute, like, even that Sharks side, I know it's not anything near their first side, but they have some absolute ballers of players. Like, they have a great squad, and they really do. I love Werner Koch on the wing. He's one of my favorite wingers. He's just the most competitive, long-haired man playing the game at present.
Every time he gets tackled, it looks like he's had a head contact, just because his hair goes whoosh forwards, and you think, oh no, it's like. And I think I remember a referee in a game said to him once, like, whatever you do, I always see you because of the hair.
And I think he's one of those players as well who will make a tackle or make a really big hit, and he gets straight back up and he's there competing for the ball without fail every time, or just caught, being a nuisance in a ruck. I just love watching him play. But yeah, Leinster back to winning ways. Just touching on the South African teams today, it's been a pretty poor start for them. Like, I know it's only been 2 rounds, but of course the massive caveat there is the Stormers, who've been in flying form. But hopefully we'll see an improvement. I think we know we will once they get some of their players back. But back to the Irish sides, Ulster, they got the job done. Another win, but they picked up a good few injuries. It was their first game on their new synthetic pitch. Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy around that. So they are playing a more exciting brand of rugby. They are embracing the style of rugby that you can play on those fast tracks. But yeah, they did pick up some injuries and they have a massive game. I think one of the games of the weekend, this coming weekend, is definitely going to be Connacht, who I'm just going to touch on now. So Connacht are playing at home to Ulster, and I think it's a late enough kickoff on the weekend. I think it'll be 7:35 or 7:45 on Saturday. But yeah, Connacht again had a brilliant win. I think it was the game of the weekend for me. I don't know if you caught much of it. We find the score of 34-26. Yeah, and Glasgow actually outscored Connacht try wise. They were 4-3, so Connacht didn't actually get that bonus point. But there have been a few, rumors of, Connacht they're building. I think they've started the season really well. I mentioned JJ Hanrahan last week. He played really well again this week. He might have picked up a knee injury, but they don't take it serious, which is brilliant. But also, if you think back to when Connacht won the Pro 12, that season, it was immediately after World Cup, and they had such a strong start. Because so many teams were missing their World Cup contingent. So, you never know. It's given me those kind of flashbacks. It's been a really good start. Like Andy Friend has left and he's moved on. So they're under a new coaching ticket and they seem to be doing really well. And I just have to shout out on some players. Joe Joyce again was absolutely superb in the centre, in the second row. He's been a brilliant find for them. Cathal Ford again, young player in the early 20s, absolutely smashing it. He had the most carries in round 2 at 32. Tom Farrell again in the centre alongside him was absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I think they're just building really well. And again, their set piece has been really strong. And on some really good news on the Connacht front as well, Bundy, Aki and Finlay Bealham have both signed 2-year extensions to stay with Connacht. Aki is on a centre Connacht contract, and Bealham will be sticking to a Connacht contract. But great to see those World Cup players stick to Connacht and commit their future.
There's speculation about maybe Bundy might hang up his boots after the World Cup as well. So that's a nice. It's nice that we're going to get to see a bit more of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. He's going to have to fight his way into the team. I know he won't, obviously, but look, in all seriousness, look, Cathal Ford and Tom Farrell are playing absolutely superb rugby. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm really excited for Connacht this season. I really think they could do a job against Ulster this weekend. So really looking forward to that. Now, I don't want to go on too much about the Irish provinces. Did you catch many of the other games? I saw Edinburgh had a very close game. The Lions are very good away from home. They were the same last season. They just never go away, do they?
No, they never. I caught a little bit of this. It seemed quite tense. It seemed quite tight. It seems to be a decent crowd up in Edinburgh, and they seem to be really made to fight for this win. The Lions have a bit of a reputation as well. Obviously, they're the least competitive of the South African sides, but that still means that they're firmly mid-table. So yeah, I didn't manage to catch too much of the game, but Edinburgh really had to be good value for their win. And as you say, Lions just never go away.
Yeah. So that was great to see. And overall, like, what are your thoughts on the league so far? I know it's only been 2 rounds, but have you been impressed? Have they picked up from last season? The league as a whole?
Does that mean I need to talk about the Welsh regions?
But the league as a whole now. Yeah, look, it's going to be, but we all knew it was going to be a tough one for them. But yeah, give us your roundup for the weekend.
Osprey Zebra was a good game. Osprey Zebra was well worth a watch. There was a bit of reaction on Twitter after the game of like, Ospreys can barely scrape a win against Zebra these days. And Zebra were really good. It was such a watchable game, and Zebra really took it to the Ospreys. Scored a couple of really nice tries. They got some really tidy players, and mostly a young squad, as we know. That's the model that Zebra like to pursue. But some really great tries. The first 2 tries for the Ospreys, you had Justin Tipperick, who was absolutely everywhere. Like he was man of the match by a long way. Gets the ball in his own 22, like burns the winger down the touchline, and then it's a few offloads inside outside, and then it's a nice score. And then Matt Prothero, who's a player that I've said some things about in the past, fair play to him individually, takes up the ball from a loose kick and just straight through the middle of Zebra. So where was I? Yeah, so Zebra game, Osprey's second try. Matt Prothero scored a great individual effort, ran straight through the middle of the Zebra defence. A little bit of finger wagging at the defender as he went across the line, which is copped a bit of flack for. I personally don't get wound up about that as much as other people, but other people don't like it, so I'll keep quiet on that. But yeah, great game, very watchable, great advert for the league. Only slight downside is there was only 3,000 in the stadium to watch it, and obviously Osprey Stadium is the Swansea City Stadium, and that has a capacity of well over 20,000, so it's not a good optics. And the Ospreys are playing their London game this weekend, which, you know, people are pretty much resigned to the fact that that is going to be quite possibly the Ospreys' biggest gate of the season is going to be the London game. So, yeah, it's not great vibes in Welsh rugby at the moment, and that's before I've even talked about the early games. So there was a derby between Dragons and Cardiff. Dragons haven't won against Cardiff in something like 17 consecutive games, something crazy like that. It was not a high quality game. It was one try from Mason Grady, who latched onto a bit of loose play. Mason Grady athletically is terrifying. He is the tallest and the heaviest centre that I was able to find the stats for at the World Cup. Like, ridiculous. But he still needs to develop as a 13. He's still not quite got all of the defensive capabilities and all of the game reading that a 13 needs. But he got that try. Cam Winnett as well, the Wales under-20s fullback, had a really good performance, picked up man of the match. It was like he had a magnet in his hands attracting the ball to him. He just was completely unflustered, nothing the Dragons could do. Could test him in any way. And Thea Cabango as well. On the wing, the young winger that Cardiff had, looked really good. The scrum, not so much, and that's a bit of a worry because Corey Jomachowski and Kieran Azarati are likely to be involved for Wales moving forward. And maybe it's more to do with the fact that Cardiff are really struggling for proper out-and-out second rows at the moment, is maybe leading to their scrums not being so strong. But from a Dragons point of view, it's just, like I said last week, it's so Dragonsy. And now their supporters are worried because they've got Munster away next. And with the URC these days, there are no easy games. There are no gimmies in terms of wins anymore. And Dragons supporters are thinking, when are we going to win a game? It's probably when they're going to play the Scarlets. So Scarlets, obviously my team, got battered. 63 points put on us last week, 52 points put on us this week against the Stormers. I did the Scarlets pod yesterday. Link in the description, link in pop-out banner, blah, blah, blah. We were absolutely awful. The Scarlets have started the season absolutely shockingly badly. Now, the mitigation that I'm willing to give them is it's basically a brand new team with reasonably new coaches. So our average age has dropped in our starting 15 from 28 to 25. And that's with some like particularly older players like John Fox and Johnny McNichol still being there. And it's just like the turnover of players that we've had. Like, we played the Stormers last November in Cape Town. Beautiful venue, by the way. Of that 15 that took the field in Cape Town last year, only 3 remained the same for this game. That's how much of a squad turnover we've had. 8 of the players who played in the game last season aren't even employed by the Scarlets anymore. That's how much of a churn we've had in our starting 15. Mm-hmm. And that speaks to the cohesion, and it speaks to a reason why we're not doing very well. But we had 13, 14 weeks of preseason with the coaches ahead of the season kicks off, and we are easily the worst team in the league, and we are probably the worst we've ever been. Now, the coaches that we've got at the moment are the Ulster coaches from a couple of seasons ago. So we've got Dwayne Peel, we've got Jared Payne, and we've got Sean Carney, and they've got a point of proof for me now, because it has been a pretty unacceptable start to the season. And they've got to show that they deserve their money at the moment, because to have that amount of time in camp with the players and to perform that badly, it's not a good look for you. So I hope they turn it around. I hope they make me look silly for saying all those things. Again, I hope my team performs well, but it can't carry on like this. It's only 2 games in, but another couple of results like that. If we don't beat Cardiff this weekend, yeah, it's not going to be pretty.
Well, fingers crossed. It's obviously going to be a building phase for them and for a lot of the Welsh sides, but I guess worryingly as well, I saw Jamie Phillips put out an interesting tweet about attendances as well, and we all knew that the URC attendances for Welsh sides generally isn't the best, and then to see low figures again for the beginning of this season is not a good look. But look, hopefully it's just part of a process. They'll get through it. The money will be back, hopefully. It's going to be a tough few years for the Welsh sides. I think we all know that.
We got the Barbars game as well this weekend, which for those who haven't been following this saga, the Welsh Rugby Union scheduled a game against the Barbarians for Wales in this Principality Stadium, and it clashes directly with Cardiff versus Scarlets in the URC, which is obviously a derby, and that has not gone down well. And there's a bit of a battle now going on amongst Welsh rugby fans. Some are saying pack the park, go and see Cardiff versus Scarlets and forget that this Wales game is even happening, which is probably sacrilege to some people. But again, I don't think the Wales Barbarians game is going to be even close to a sellout. It might be one of the lowest attendances we've seen for a Wales game by all accounts. So again, it's bad vibes. It's just bad vibes all around. And then the news broke today that Judgment Day, which is like our back-to-back double header that is normally held at the Principality. I think you guys at the Irish do something similar at the Aviva once or twice a year.
They usually play it on separate days.
Okay. And then in Super Rugby, they've got the Super Round as well, which I think is something quite similar. Anyway, that is normally held at the Principality Stadium. This season, it's not, because apparently the Principality is being used for another event, which isn't a great look because it's a facility owned by the WRU and it's a rugby stadium, and yet it can't be used for a rugby match because it's being used for something else, which people are assuming is a concert of some kind. Obviously, it's the biggest indoor venue in Wales, and it's mostly used for pop and rock concerts and things. Now, if the WRU were open with it and said, look, this concert is going to make us however much money more than Judgment Day, and we need that money so that we can do this, then people could get on board with it, but they don't. The WRU aren't that open, and they just leave people to make up their own minds. Like I said, bad vibes. It's just bad vibes all around at the moment, really.
Well, I guess we should probably move on to our next session then, and discuss the club and international rugby highlights of this past week.
Yep, just get my notes up here.
I'll take it maybe, do you want me to take the first part, just in terms of the... Yeah, so the WXV, which I think it's been a pretty... Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good success. In terms of... So we all know there are 3 different tiers to this. So in terms of the WXV 1, and the Red Roses continued their domination of the game with a 45-12 win over Canada. Australia showed how competitive the chasing pack is with the win over France. And Wales had a very difficult result. And moving on then to the WXV2, Scotland wrapped up the title with the win over Japan. South Africa beat Samoa and Italy beat USA 30-8. And for our Irish listeners, in terms of the WXV3, Kazakhstan once again took over 100. Not a good look. This time from Fiji, Kenya beat Colombia and Ireland beat Spain in a very close game at 15-13. So Ireland have actually won the WXV3, I should say, which I think is a very good result for Ireland. We know that women's rugby in this country is at a bit of a low ebb, so it is good to see the girls, see the women get that result, and you can see what it meant to the players in their celebrations. So hopefully this is a sign of good things to come. What about the Prem, mate? How are things over your side of the
Over in England. Yeah, so Saracens managed to get their first win of the season against Gloucester. It was 24 points to 3, and Exeter hammered Sale. Exeter have managed to put a lot of scores on a few teams so far, if you include the Premiership Cup as well. So they hammered Sale. I think it was something like 41, 43-0, something like that. Bath are still top. That was despite a narrow defeat, 24-23 to Leicester Tigers. And then Taffs Abroad, Jared Evans and Callum Sheedy were the battle of the no longer selected Welsh 10s, as Harlequins just about edged past Bristol. Top 14 was back as well. Full round of fixtures all played on Sunday. The way that those games are scheduled, there's always seems to be one on. So if you've got a Viaplay subscription already to watch the URC, these games are played from about midday-ish to last thing, maybe 9 o'clock at night. So there's always one on. So if you ever find yourself at a loose end, flick it on. It's always worth a good watch. The biggest surprise of the round was Castres shocked La Rochelle. La Rochelle were the better team for about 75% of that game, but Castres came through 27 points to 24. There was also big wins for Toulon and Lyon. Pau, of all people, are currently top of the league, but it's only it's actually just 1 point between top of the league and 5th, which is Toulouse. And they're going to get all their big World Cup stars back now. We saw Peter Aki and Duncan Payara and things were back for their clubs this weekend, so it's going to start getting going properly now. So well worth keeping an eye on. And then Welsh Prem, Ebervale and Llandovri carried on their winning ways. They're still top 2, but Newport are creeping up on them as well. Neath is still down the bottom, sadly. How about the Super Series, mate?
The Harriets are, looking more comfortable at the top after a win over Watsonians, and then in the English Championship, more Taffs Abroad as Jonah Holmes scored for Ealing, who beat Hartpury, Coventry beat Caldy. So, I also just wanted to mention, and I got quite a bit of traction on Twitter for this, that the Rugby Europe Super Cup is back this weekend. It is free. I believe there are at least 4 games, potentially 6, on this weekend, and they're all free to stream on Rugby Europe's website, which I'll be sharing on the TV guide when we get that bit closer to the weekend. So yeah, we got some more obscure club rugby to watch, but look, we're a tier 2 pod. We want to support it, and so we're going to be pushing it, and I'm going to be including it in the TV guides going forward. Do you want to touch on that at all, Huw? Did you follow that story?
I did follow it. I saw you pushing it, mate. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, the team that I'm most familiar with is Black Lion, and we're going to be talking about them plenty on this podcast moving forward because they're in the Challenge Cup this year. I'm going to be looking out for the Portuguese and Spanish sides as well, and I think there's a brand new Czech side as well have joined it this year as well. So it's an expanding tournament. Shout out to our very good friend Francisco Isaac. He's going to be covering it. He's going to be all over it like a rash. Telling us everything that we need to know. So if you don't follow him on Twitter already, what are you doing? Get on and follow him, and you'll learn all of the things.
And we also just wanted to give our listener Martin Lewis a quick shout out. He did ask us a question, so we are going to address it next week. And he wants us to kind of look at the, whether or not the URC could learn from NFL TV revenue, in terms of revenue splitting, in terms of how that broadcast deal works. So we're definitely going to look into that. So special shout out because it is a fascinating story. And I know I did put out, that story. We did discuss that story last week in terms of, TNT Sports and the next Premiership, the Gallagher Premiership broadcast rights cycle, and we know that it's going to be less than the next one. So look, it is an interesting topic that we'll certainly get into. Also, in terms of the guide will be out Thursday, and it will be on our mini show, but also the Welsh game is actually being shown. I don't really want to push this because of it clashed with the URC, but Wales v Barbarians is going to be shown on free-to-air TV on S4C. But yeah, full guide will be out with you as always on Thursday, and I will be going through some of the big fixtures on our new mini show. I think that's it from me, Huw. What about yourself?
Yes, from me as well. Short and sweet. Big push again on the Friday show, guys. 15 minutes. All the headlines. I think there's a full suite of Pro de Deux fixtures that are going on this Thursday night. So you'll get all of the results and all of the TAFs abroad, etc. news on that. And another big push for our Substack as well. I'm going to be dropping a story on that this week, which is going to be looking at the relative playing budgets, comparing the Welsh regions to South African franchises, and you might be surprised at how little money the South African franchises managed to achieve big success off the back of. So it's really interesting stuff, guys. Keep your eye out for it.
Great stuff. Thanks. Chat next week.